Welcome to another hashtag Football Friday episode of Second City Sports right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Along with Keenan McGee, I am Sydney Brown. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
I should start my own little spookiness because it's the first show and it's October 1st now. You can follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keenan_McGee on the IG.
Download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. There's the Apple iTunes Store or at Google Play, wherever you get your apps. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app. Speaking of Sports Zone Chicago, you can follow them on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Sports Zone Chicago. Once again, that's Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and all the other good stuff. If you want to follow our podcast, the audio version of this show, Second City Sports, you can do so. We are available on all podcast platforms at War on Anchor. Make sure you type in those search engine boxes, WARR on Anchor. And you can follow War Media on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at WARR Media. Thank you in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. Lakina, let's start off with baseball. We're coming down to the final 3 days of the regular season. Let's focus in on Chicago and turn our attentions to the south side. The White Sox are currently 91-68, winners of the American League Central Division title. They clinched the division 1 week ago today. They have a 3-game series against the Detroit Tigers starting tonight. Lance Lynn will get the bump for the Southsiders tonight. Lakina, I'm not going to sit here and panic if they don't get the number 2 seed, of course. We'll get into the rest of baseball in a few minutes. Of course, the Houston Astros, which they'll face around, believe, this time next week for the division series. They clinched the American League West Division Championship last night. Lakina, I'm not going to be on panic mode as a fan. I'm trying to enjoy this last 3 days of this season as I can. It's been a tremendous season up to this point. Lance Lynn, I didn't like what I saw last Saturday night in Cleveland. Hopefully you can throw that performance out the window. Tonight is huge. Perhaps he's going to be your game 1 started by this time next week. I want to see him throw about a good 6 to 7 innings tonight against a bad Detroit Tigers team. Of course, the Sox had a makeup game last Monday. They won that game 8-7. Barely had to hold on to win, but they did. Of course, Tim Anderson, for those of you guys that have been sleeping under a rock, he bumped an umpire, so he's suspended for the rest of the regular season. He'll be back for the playoffs around this time next week. Of course, Jose Abreu has been hit by a pitch. No more. I think he's number 1 in getting hit by pitches. It happened again on Monday. Of course, he did a hard slide into Brandon Goodrum in second base. Of course, a big old brouhaha broke loose, and Tim Anderson got in there yelling, screaming as well. And he bumped an umpire. That's why he's suspended for the remainder of the regular season starting tonight. Lakina, getting back to what's going on the field. Lance Lynn, I want to see him close to dominant tonight, even though Detroit Tigers are a bad team. Even though they've been playing better as of lately, even though the record doesn't show it. But I want to see Lance Lynn dominate tonight. I don't need him to throw a no-hitter. I don't need him to strike out double digits. If that's ends up what's happening, so be it. But I want him to see I want to see him healthy and go at least a 6, maybe perhaps 7 innings. That didn't happen last Saturday night in Cleveland. He tweaked something in the middle of his start. Hopefully he's okay. This is huge for him personally tonight. Not for the White Sox, but him personally, just to get out on the mound and do his best.
Well, yeah, a couple of things. One, they are going to get the number 3 seed because the Astros took 2 out of 3 against the Rays. So it will be Astros and White Sox in the ALDS, as I said in the teaser there. Now, as far as this last series against Detroit, I mean, this is more for kind of like pride purposes. You're going to be resting a lot of guys. Anderson suspended. So, you know what? I'm not going to say that this series doesn't mean anything. It still does. I mean, this is your divisional rivals are going to be finishing up the regular season, but you want to have, to play well and have a great start from Lance Lynn. And also want your heading to be well so that way, once you start playing the Astros and the ALDS next week, you can, you'll have that momentum going in. So I'm not at that realm. Okay, you lose a series. Okay, fine. But then again, you know what? I would rather them do it now than do it like in the series, because the Astros series is actually more important. So I know that, look, they were able to win that two game against the Reds, and they not really dominate, but they kind of, it was sort of like the Reds sort of kind of played like they were sort of, okay, it's all over with, whatever. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how I felt with it. So, look, I think I'm not really expecting too much. I'm not gonna, I think Liz will probably only pitch maybe 5 or 6 innings, I think, and as because you want to keep him fresh, he's your game one starter for the ALDS. So, I mean, Giolito also too. Still, let's see if you want to see how he looks in that Sunday game, that regular season finale. You want to make sure he looks good. So, it's. I'm not, like I said, I'm not really expecting too much. I just want them to have really good momentum going into next week's ALDS.
You're listening to Second City Sports on the hashtag Football Friday right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakina McGee. I am Sydney Brown. If you want to comment on our topics during today's show, you could do so by going on to our Facebook page at Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook, or at our YouTube page at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Place your comments in the comment sections. Lakina will get those comments up for you. Lakina, remember on our episode on Monday, getting back to the White Sox, I told you if Carlos Rodon pitched less than 5 innings, is going to be a problem. Well, they must have heard us. He pitched exactly 5 innings. He looked great. He's 5-1 in his last 6 starts, including that victory against the Reds on Wednesday. Tony La Russa didn't pitch it too much. Carlos Rodon made it in his post-game interview with Jason Benetti and Steve Stone. He didn't, just paraphrasing a little bit, he didn't have his best stuff, but his stuff was good enough that he felt comfortable. You have to look at recent trends for Rodon. When you give him a rest, some time off, he comes out and pitches much better. Now, I expect the same thing to happen again once the playoffs start next week. It looks like, as you mentioned, Lance Lynn is going to be your game 1 starter. Who's your game 2 starter? Will it be Giolito or will it be Cease? It depends on how the series lead is after this time next week. If it's tied 1-1 or you down 2-0, heaven forbid, or if you're up 2-0, will you throw out Carlos Rodon for game 3? Will it be Dylan Cease for game 3? Or do you save Rodon to game 4? Or just play it by, I hate to use this term, but play it by luck and same for the ALCS?
Well, remember, who did Pinella did that with Carlos Zambrano years ago with the Cubs, and look how that didn't turn out very well. So I think you don't want to play with that, especially since this is a best of 5, so you're not you can't really play like the odds here. You have to sort of be smart with this, and look, if he doesn't have a good outing, you may have to pull him anyway. So as far as we're done. I mean, look, if you played the Reds, you didn't have to really reserve too much, so I'm not worried about that. Like, as long as we can keep it up. If now again, if he's practicing and then something tightens up, then you can kind of okay, let's do a pitch count with him, and and just go from there. But again, look, I think once we get into we'll do it Monday. We'll get really in depth in this in the divisional series, but. I think if you're the White Sox, especially if you're Rodon, you want to make sure he pitches well and has maybe send him to the Myers and do a couple of sessions so that way, or maybe do have a simulated game so that way maybe he can get into a rhythm. So I don't like I said before, this whole thing with Rodon, I'm just hoping that he is well enough to pitch. If he's not, if someone else is gonna have to step up, maybe Michael Kopech or somebody like that. I mean, I'm not worried about Rodon right now, but I'm still a little I appreciate his candor, and he's like, look, I'm ready to pitch, but I'm not there yet. That's okay, I'm not going to worry about what he does just yet.
Speaking of being worried, as we talked about all season long, Lakina, you cannot depend on the long ball of either White Sox. You have to manufacture runs. We saw them do that a little bit in this last brief 2-game sweep against the Cincinnati Reds. Saw not Larry, Legend Garcia. He picked up a couple of big hits. Cesar Hernandez had a couple of big hits in this series as well. But I want to focus in on the 2 big bats, and that's Gavin Sheets, a rookie who could be huge come playoff time, as we talked about the last couple of weeks, and Luis Robert, a.k.a. La Pantera, over his last 7 days. He played in all 5 games, of course, including this 4-game winning streak. He has a total of 3 home runs, 5 RBI, and a walk. Lakina, we talked about this all year once Luis Robert came back from his injury early in this season. We know that he has the defense. He could cover just about every area out there in the outfield, but his bat has been huge. And I'm looking forward to see this will be his second stint in the playoffs. He didn't do much last year in terms of the bat, but I think he's primed and more ready to handle the pressure this year. And we're seeing the benefits. We talked about this during the trade deadline. We've seen the benefits of the guys who've been injured, like Luis Robert and Eloy Jimenez. They're starting to get that timing in now. They start to get their groove on, excuse the expression, but in terms of swinging the bats and being selective with their pitches, watch out for Luis Robert. He could be dangerous with that bat come playoff time.
And I think he's the guy you want to step up in case, if a Brady hit by a pitch or if Tim Anderson's having struggles and the other guys. And I think you need someone like, a Robert or a Larry Garcia to kind of help with that and sort of pick up the slack in case, like I've been saying the last couple of episodes, like, those top guys do kind of, fall off a bit. I think this is sort of what you want. Hopefully he can keep it up as we go into the playoffs because, like we said before, especially in divisional series where it's very short, weird things can happen. A pass ball or a pitcher has a great outing, you can't hit him, and this that type of thing. So I think you want to kind of, if you're the White Sox, you hope that guys like Robert and Garcia can kind of be right there to sort of like kind of take it into pick up the slack in case the guys like Abreu and Eloy and Tim Anderson and those guys, if they're not reliable.
White Sox fans, what is your number one concern going into the playoffs, which starts next Thursday for the White Sox as they'll take on the Houston Astros in the American League Division Series? Perhaps that series we're pretty sure that's going to start in the city of Houston. You can place your comments in our comment section on Facebook for Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Place your comments in the comment section. Lakina will get them comments up and running for you. If you try to do anything stupid or silly, Lakina will politely give you the boot. Speaking of giving you the boot, we'll give you the boot on these team leaders and statistics for the White Sox. Leading the team in batting average is Tim Anderson. He'll finish the year hitting that 300 again, 301 to be exact. Jose Abreu is leading the team in home runs with 29 and an RBI with 113. On base percentage, Yohan Moncada with 3.376, and Tim Anderson leads the team in hits with 155. Lakina, let's go to Yohan Moncada. I want to see him pick it up starting tonight against Detroit. As you mentioned, the division's already clinched. Perhaps you're going to be the number 3 seed. But I want to see some other guys pick up some momentum and carry some good habits into the playoffs. Yohan Moncada has been one of them. I've been talking about him for the last couple of months. I want to see him pull a Joe Creedy like Joe Creedy did in 05. His glove was there, but his bat wasn't there. If you remember, during that 05 playoff run, his bat picked up, and he was playing some of his best baseball of his career. I want to see Yohan Moncada get that spark and do it here for this 2021 version of the White Sox.
Yeah, that should be interesting. I think Moncada, like I said, another one of those guys where if like I said, if they if at the top end, the top tier guys, they have a slump or they struggle, you want Moncada to kind of pick up the slack. He had his struggles last year, like you said, with the short season and everything, but he has picked it up, which is what you want if you're the White Sox, especially if you're trying to advance far in the playoffs. Look, I think for me, for Moncada is going to be another key player, along with Robert and Garcia and those guys. So, and I think that's going to be sort of the catalyst of what, the White Sox, how far will they go? How far will they advance? So I think if you're Moncada, he's been doing it with the short ball and the long ball. He's been hitting the home runs, but he's also been driving guys in. So I think that's the kind of guy you want to step up if you're the White Sox. So if I were Tony La Russa, look, he's been doing this as his first rodeo. Yeah, I would try to use it as much as you can.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Lakina. Let's stay with the White Sox pitching staff. Let's go to the bullpen. Michael Kopech, he pitched 3 innings on Wednesday and then went against Cincinnati. He looked pretty good. Remember, he's been going 2 innings at the most coming out of the bullpen all year long. I know he had a couple of emergency starts early in the season where he looked good, including that game against Texas early in the year on the South side. He struck out 10 in 4.5, 5 innings. That was incredible. Aaron Bummer has looked okay. Liam Hendricks is still your closer. Craig Kimbrell, I'm so worried about, but hopefully the White Sox bullpen will pick it up in high. Of course, your other starters like Dallas Keuchel and some of the other guys that won't get a start in the playoffs, they're relegated to the bullpen. Renato Lopez, keep your eye on him. He was the starting pitcher on the clinching day this time last week against Cleveland. He's looked real good coming out of the bullpen. Remember, when we were doing our radio show before the shutdown, I said the Sox should throw him in a trade to get a better piece. Rick Hahn was right. Don't listen to media folks like us all the time. Renato Lopez, he was a regular starter for the last couple years. He's had his struggles, but coming out of that bullpen, he's looked great. He's going to be, I believe, in Dallas Keuchel, should he make the playoff roster. He's going to be your middle relievers. You could pitch about 2 or 3 innings to keep your team in the ballgame, whether they're up or behind.
Yeah, that's going to be, and I think that's going to be the key too. I think that middle relief and bullpen will be the key. I mean, look, if Lopez, if you want to make him a starter and perhaps maybe have him eat up innings, to sort of, keep your bullpen from being taxed, that's fine. I think Hendricks is your closer. I think right now, I know Kimbrel's got more playoff experience, but I think Hendricks is sort of your closer. If Kimbrel can be kind of like the setup guy. So, look, before we move on, from the White Sox, because we got to talk about the rest of the MLB because we're going up against it. But I think for me, like I said, the bullpen, especially the middle relief, that's going to be the key. Can Michael Kopech, be lights out and be able to, to pitch 2 innings? Can Kimbrel, show us that playoff experience that we've seen, when he's been playing other teams, and then with everything else, I mean, look, can we get to keep the good Dylan Cease? And are we going to get the bad Dylan Cease that gives us 7 or 8 home runs? You can't afford to do it against Houston. So I think for me, I think that the key for the White Sox, and if they if they travel, if they advance far in the playoffs, not really the batting, but I think really it's more the bullpen, particularly the middle relief, the setup guys.
You're listening to Second City Sports right here on Sports Zone Chicago on the hashtag Football Friday, along with Lakina McGee, which is she. I'm Cindy Brown. That's me. Let's wrap this segment up, Lakina. We'll get to the rest of baseball on the other side of this break, Lakina. But wrapping up on the White Sox also too. Let's take a look at the unsung heroes. And you mentioned Larry Garcia, Brian Goodwin. He's going to be key as well. And of course, Gavin Sheets with that big bat coming off the bench. He's another interchangeable part. Also, Andrew Vaughn, who's been injured over the last month or so, but he's healthy enough to give it a go. I like his bat in the lineup as well, or coming off a bench as a pinch hitter. Those guys will be key as well.
Well, I think also, and I think you're right about that. And I think for me, look at Keuchel. If Keuchel again got guys that got playoff experience, Kenny, he is probably going to be one of the setup guys. Like that's probably what's going to end up happening. And look, as far as the bats, I mean, look, I hope that maybe Gavin Sheets could play a part, and and those guys. I mean, for me, I think that's going to be the key. Can Gavin Sheets, Andrew Vaughn, can they play a role in this? And Grandal and all those guys. I mean, we'll see. I mean, the good news is for Tony La Russa is that he actually has parts he can play with, so that's a good thing. So look, I think the key for me is that if everyone pitches in and steps up, I think the White Sox will be fine. If not, it's going to be a short thing. They're going to be exiting the series. So.
It is time to take a pause for the cause as you're listening to Second City Sports on the hashtag Football Friday on Sports Zone Chicago. When we return, we'll get into the best and worst there was from MLB from this past week and give you some key series to watch for this upcoming weekend, for the final weekend of the regular season. And Lakina will give you her top games in her college football pigskin countdown. All that and more as you're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. In Sunday's Major League Baseball action, the Cubs got pounded 9-1 at home against Kansas City. The White Sox shut out on the road 9-0 at Tampa. NFL preseason on Saturday, the Bills hammered the Bears 41-15. Andy Dalton, 11 of 17, passing 146 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Justin Fields, 9 of 19 for 80 yards. Head coach Matt Nagy says Dalton remains the Week 1 starter and that Fields is ahead of schedule.
When you look at a guy like Justin and you see the things that he's doing, are there some things that he can get better at? Yeah, for sure. That's going to be, we're going to say that 3 years from now. But at the same point in time, for him, there's also things that he's doing better probably than we thought coming into this, which is good too. Like that's what we want. We want that to happen.
download the free Score app. Lightning fast updates so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Blue Star medicated ointment works fast to relieve the pain and itch of almost any skin irritation.
It's amazing. It's like as soon as you put it on, you can feel it working. We've had Blue Star in the family for years. It works on everything.
I love the cooling sensation on my athlete's foot.
What a relief for my eczema.
Nothing worked on my dry, cracked skin until I tried Blue Star.
Blue Star is great for scalp itch.
Look for the white box with the Blue Star in the first aid section. Feel Blue Star work fast or your money back.
Want to hear something amazing? Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year, automatically, dollar for dollar, with no limit on how much you can earn. Extra cash? Come on, how amazing is that? In fact, it's even more amazing when you realize all the places where Discover is accepted. 99% of places in the U.S. that take credit cards. So when it comes to Discover, get used to hearing yes more often. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2021 Nielsen Report. Limitations apply.
Back to hashtag Football Friday on Sports Zone Chicago. As you're listening to Second City Sports, Lakina McGee is she. I am Sydney Brown. That's me. As Lakina, let's wrap up our baseball talk by going diving deep into the rest of Major League Baseball. We'd like to say congratulations to two teams that clinched last night. We mentioned one of them in our last segment. The Houston Astros, they are the 2021 American League Western Division champions. And the Atlanta Braves, for the fourth straight year, will be your NL East Division champions. They swept the Philadelphia Phillies in 3 straight games. That's the team's first sweep in the year 2020. Lakina, I want to start up with the Braves. I watched that broadcast last night via my computer on replay, and I noticed that all the Braves players were talking about the first of the season and how people ran them off, including yours truly, when Ronald Acuna Jr. went down with a season-ending injury. They picked up Jorge Soler at the trade deadline from Kansas City. He's been amazing. You still got some of the young guys there from when they started rebuilding from a few years ago, like Ozzie Albies. I like him a lot there, second baseman. Of course, Freddie Freeman is one of those young veteran guys that have been there a long time as well. And they talk about the adversity they went through, and they had the 9-0 road trip a month ago. And of course, they picked it up the last couple of weeks. You know, now they're going to play the Milwaukee Brewers this time next week in the division series, and that's a short 5-game series. You know, Atlanta, they did what they had to do in Superway, and the Phillies is over. So this week, their weekend series doesn't mean anything in terms of the playoffs, but you want to create momentum going into the playoffs. And I had this thought last night as I watched them celebrate in front of their home fans at Truist Park. That's just outside the city limits in Atlanta. I was thinking about this last night. I don't want to make my prediction here. We'll do that on Monday, but they have a chance against the Milwaukee Brewers. I'll just say that. They have a chance against the Brewers. As you mentioned, in a short series, anything can happen. But this team, as I know, is that the players, they're being interviewed last night. They have a chip on their shoulder, and rightly so, because they blew a 3-1 lead in the NLCS last year in the bubble against the Dodgers, who went out to win the World Series.
You gotta give them props. You know, Brian Snicker, who's the manager for the Braves. I mean, he kept his guys together once Acuna got hurt. And look, like I said, Soler stepped up for them. You know, their pitch has been really good. Nancy Watson has been really solid for them. And they've benefited from a very light schedule. You know, they played they swept the Padres, the Phillies. We said that the Phillies were having bullpen issues, and they did just that. So congrats to them. And they were kind of, and the Mets were already eliminated, so they kind of won. I don't want to say they won by default, but yeah, they've got a chance against the Brewers. But again, we'll save that for the other one. But what, I also want to give a quick shout out to the Cubs. They'll be able to finish up their season against the Cardinals. Trying to play spoiler for them, and look, they won 2 out of 3 against the Pirates. They shut them out 9-0, and look, I think their young squad. I think they're going to be hungry, like we've been saying. Next year is going to be where you hope that they can turn the corner about this time. So we'll see what happens there. Now, for me, I want to give a shout out Also to Dusty Baker, I think he's like the third. This is like the fifth team he's taken to the playoffs. So you got to give him, his due, and we'll see. They got a good chance. They were very close in the last year in the AL. They had their struggles. Excuse me, late in the season. So you got to give them props. Especially with all this stuff that's going on behind the scenes. The last couple of years, they still get booed. And the good news is that they were able to clinch it at home. Now, as far as the NL West, that's still up for grabs, folks. I know that that's gonna be a tough one here, but with the series coming up, they still got both the Giants and the Dodgers still have big series. The Giants, they play the Padres, but we'll see. Look, we'll see how the Padres, how motivated they are, because unfortunately they had high expectations and injuries. Tatis not being 100% and everything, so I think that sort of didn't help them. And the Dodgers play the Brewers too, so we wonder where the Brewers' mindset's going to be. They're already in the playoffs. I'm sure they're going to want to rest. They're going to rest their guys. But to me, I think that's going to be still a lot to handle. Also, but the wild card here is the AL wild card. The Red Sox lose 2 out of 3 to the Orioles, and the Orioles, everybody, they got all these fans. Yeah, they got all these fans, fans of the Blue Jays, fans of the Yankees, and the Mariners. I mean, the Mariners should they make it? They're now, the Red Sox are now tied with the Mariners. The Mariners will actually break a long playoff drought. They haven't been to the playoffs since 2001, and that's actually the longest active playoff drought in all of the major sports. That's MLB, NFL, NBA, and NHL. So. You hope you're going to be cheering for them. So it's going to get wild here. Still a lot to figure out and decide.
It is a lot to figure out. Me personally, if Seattle gets in there, great. It's a great story. We've been giving a manager and former player and one-time Chicago Cub Scott Service his props all year. They're doing it with a bunch of no-name guys. They stuck up there in the Pacific Northwest. No one is talking about them, but they ain't being talked about right now. As I told you, on Monday, that Seattle Oakland series, that was the elimination series. Whoever won that series is going to inch closer to clinching a playoff spot. And Seattle, they want it right now. So, and of course, the New York Yankees, I watched a little bit of that series. Giancarlo Stanton, that ball is still going from Tuesday with that golf swing. My goodness. But they took 2 out of 3, I believe, from the Blue Jays, and while the Red Sox struggled. So there's 3 teams for 2 spots. This is what baseball wanted when they created that one-game wild card scenario a decade ago. They're going to get it now.
It's going to get very interesting this, as for all of this, because the Yankees have the Rays, starting tonight, and it'll be interesting to see how, what mindset the Rays are. They've clinched the number 1 seed. So we'll see how they, their mindset is. Baltimore, Toronto plays Baltimore, and I'm sure Toronto's going to make sure they don't take Baltimore like, because they saw what happened with Boston. Speaking of Boston, they play Washington, and look, it's going to be, with Washington, they're kind of like sort of, in the tailspin here. So we'll see how much they're motivated. And Seattle, they play them. They host the Angels, the Los Angeles Angels of Orange County. So they got to deal with Shohei Ohtani, who looks like he's going to end up winning AL MVP. I know a lot of Toronto fans wish it was Vlad Jr., but he had 8 triples a couple of days ago. So that's he's had 8 triples this season. And that's the most by any player with at least 5 home runs since Mike Schmidt. He had 8 triples and 48 home runs. He did that in 1980. But so there's still a lot to figure out. And I know the Brewers broke the Cardinals' long win streak yesterday. So there's still, like I said, there's still a lot to be decided in baseball.
You know what, Lakina? I was just thinking about something.
What?
Do you really want to be an TV executive right now if you're in baseball? Because if Seattle gets in, yes, it's a great story, but you have the Red Sox and the Yankees for a 1-game playoff. Let's be honest, you'll get more viewership if it's a Red Sox and Yankees than you have whether it's Seattle versus Toronto or Seattle versus Boston or Seattle versus New York. If it's Seattle versus New York, people are going to watch because people want to see New York go down. On the other side, I get that people are sick of seeing Red Sox Yankees, especially with ESPN being the East Coast biased sports network that it is. I don't want to be a TV exec right now. I really don't.
Well, yeah,
but that goes on. I have to worry about that.
Yeah, but look at also Toronto too. What if Toronto's only one game back? What if they sneak in there? But at the end of the game, you won't mind them because they got a lot of young players. They got Vlad Jr. and Bo Bichette and all those other guys. So Kevin Vigio. So look, I think if you're the executive, you're doing the praying thing. You're praying to see if maybe you can get a Red Sox Yankees. To get that spot in the ALDS. I mean. I think that you're praying, but hey, whatever. But then again, this is what you want. Once they added that extra wild card, you wanted that sort of have the extra game to kind of have somebody play. And of course, in this case, it would end up being either the Yankees or the Red Sox, or the Yankees and the Blue Jays, or the Red Sox and Blue Jays, or the Yankees and Mariners, or just a whole lot to figure out. And look, I think this is what you want. I think you want people to kind of be glued into the last few days of the season. So. If you're a TV executive, yes, you probably are cheering for Yankees, Red Sox, but at the same time, though, Phil, you're looking like, look, it's actually it's important now.
And also, too, we talked about this for the last couple of months or so, going into the month of September. Now, since it's October 1st and the regular season will be ending on Sunday, for those contending teams are fighting to get in, we talked about the Red Sox, the Yankees, Seattle, Toronto. Looking at your schedule, and you're seeing that you playing a lesser opponent, a sub 500 team, or a team that's way below 500. Of course, those sub 500 teams don't have anything to play for. But if you're, like you said, Washington, they play in Boston this weekend. And I believe you said Toronto's playing Baltimore. If you're Washington and Baltimore, you salvaging the opportunity. You're salivating at the mouth. You could really affect the playoff picture here. If you take 2 out of 3 or perhaps sweep, you can end that contending team's regular season. Yes, those sub 500 teams have nothing to play for in terms of playoffs, but they could affect the playoff season that the opponents that they play. We said this for the last month, you guys. Those lesser teams have something to play for. Those players are playing for their jobs, whether it's on their own team or somewhere else next year. But if you're Baltimore or Washington, you really savaging this moment because this is your World Series right here. Nothing's been going great for you all year long, but you could affect a couple of teams not making the playoffs at all.
Also, say too, if you're San Diego, I mean, you're going to be playing San Fran. I mean, I'm sure you will love to sort of like help out the Dodgers by me and them in a couple of cases. Are they going to be motivated though? That's the thing. So that's another question for a lot of these teams. I think that look, it's going to get very interesting. I think we may see a couple of upsets this weekend. So that
don't be surprised.
That might change some of the trajectory, if you will. So I don't know. Like I said, this is exciting. So if this is baseball, this is what you wanted. So you want those last couple of games of the season to matter. So and it is going to matter.
Yep. The regular season for 2021 baseball will end on Sunday. You listen to #Football Friday right here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Lakina McGee and Sydney Brown here with you, Lakina. Let's dig into the football. Week 5 of college football kicked off last night as Virginia defeated Miami 30-28. Lakina, I only saw the missed kick on the highlights at the end. The University of Miami had a chance to win that game, but they're like the Minnesota Vikings of the NFL. You cannot find a kicker.
Yeah.
Carry on.
Well, yeah, I mean, there was so much irony that they missed that kick hit the goal post. I mean, really, like that's unfortunately that was sort of a synopsis of what Miami's season's been, and I'm sure a lot of look. If you go back to what Kirk Herbstreit said last weekend on game day about Miami, and that the president, the AD, and the coach are not on the same page. There's no lie in what he said, so he can say it better. So I would say look it up on YouTube. I'm sure it's on Awful Announcing somewhere. So. I would say check that out. But let's talk about the games that we got, the good games that are going to be coming. There's actually a good one in the Big Ten coming up tonight, and that's Iowa and Maryland. There's, remember Tua's little brother is over there in Maryland now, and they've actually been playing pretty well. And Mike Loxley, who's a coach there. So if I were to a place in College Park, going to be rocking, and they're undefeated too. Maryland is. So if I'm Iowa, I would definitely be on upset alert.
Yep, Iowa's 3.5-point favorite. Shout out to our girl, Alyssa Bergamini, in-game host for the White Sox. She's a Iowa alum, along with our good friend of Maya Kai, colleague and boss of this network, Sports Zone Chicago. She's a Iowa alumni as well. Lakina, it's going to be a close game. I'm taking Iowa to win a tough run on the road, but as far as point spreads, I'll go with Iowa, but I'm just going with Iowa to win. I think they got too much up front, especially on the offensive line, and they can run the ball better. So I'm going with Iowa.
it should be fun over there. Also, another team that I think should be an upset alert, BYU. I know they're undefeated right now. They play Utah State, and that should be a fun one there at Maverick Stadium. And I know they're a 9.5 favorite. I would say take the under because I kind of feel like Utah, especially after what happened with Boise State, this is a more reasonable time for them to play. So I think they'll be Blake Anderson. They'll have his guys ready, and that should be a fun one. They're in Logan, Utah now. As for the Saturday games, we got a top 10 matchup coming up on the SEC at 11 a.m. tomorrow. On ESPN, you got Arkansas at Georgia. Should be a fun one, and we'll see if Arkansas is for real. Now, this is going to be their first big test, so that should be fun.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that. Can Arkansas win big on the road? If they can, I know it's early to say this, but can they be a disruptive team in terms of the national playoff picture? I don't know. We're early into the season, but it could be a tall tale sign if they should upset Georgia. Also on Big News Saturday on Fox, we have number 14 Michigan travel to Wisconsin to take on the 1 and 2 Badgers. Lakina, we saw what Wisconsin did last week here in Chicago against Notre Dame. Laid a big fat egg. Jim Harbaugh, nothing's a gimme, but could this be more of a gimme?
Well, this will be their first road game.
Maybe I was just looking at it wrong. I don't know.
I mean, this will be the first road game for Michigan this year. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be a tough spot. Camp Randall is going to be rocking. They're going to be jumping around. So, but I just don't think Wisconsin's got the talent right now. But again, you never know. These two teams have been playing pretty well in, I think the last 25, 30 years. So there's always some good games between them. So it should be a fun one there, as it usually is. Now, Tennessee and Missouri, that should be a fun one there. In Columbia, Missouri, that should be a good one. Also, Illinois plays a pretty good Charlotte team. Now, remember, this Charlotte football program has only been around, I think, 6 or 7 years. And Will Healy has his guys playing well. So they're 3-1. So this could be another loss for Illinois, I'm thinking. Just saying. Sorry, Lamont, if you're listening.
Also, another basketball matchup will be taking place tomorrow for college football. Duke and North Carolina. Duke is 3-1 and North Carolina at 2-2. They'll be on ESPN2 at 11 o'clock a.m. Chicago time. Minnesota to Purdue, not a bad matchup in the Big Ten. That's on the Big Ten Network at the same time. The Boilermakers checking in at 3-1. Minnesota's at 2-2.
Yeah, looking to get that loss against Bowling Green at home out of their mouths, I'm sure. Texas and TCU. I mean, these two teams have been playing each other and going into each other for years. Texas is 3-1, TCU is 2-1. I think TCU had so that should be a fun one there between those two teams, in-state rivals, kind of battling.
Yeah.
So I think that should be a fun one there. That's another 11 a.m. That's an ABC game, so make sure you guys check that out and set your DVRs if you like. So excuse me, that should be a good one there between those two. Look, Texas just throttled with so much in their last game, so that should be. They scored 70 points against Tech, so we'll see if they can keep it up. That should be an interesting one there as well. Let's see here.
USC in Colorado, a rare 1 p.m. 1 p.m. game, Chicago time. That's on the Pac-12 network. USC favored by 7.5.
Yeah. I know Colorado. They haven't. A lot of their guys, left last year, graduated. So they, Carl Durrell and his guys, they've been struggling. But look, SC. I mean, you got to keep it up for your SC. I mean, if you want, they're playing for their jobs basically. So
yeah.
That's you gotta have a better show that they did last week against Oregon State. A good one here that's a Notre Dame game. They host Cincy.
Yeah,
folks. Upset. You guys, Desmond Ritter, who is just a freak, for Cincy, their quarterback. Like I said, I don't buy Notre Dame, and I'm sure Cincy's going to knock them back to reality. So this should be a really good one over there at Notre Dame Stadium.
Yeah, Cincinnati's a 2-point favorite. Shocking, but
really,
yeah, they're 2-point favorites. I'm reading it right now. Cincinnati's barely a 2-point favorite. So I think it's going to be a close game, but I'm cheering for Cincinnati. Let's just say that I'll cheer for Cincinnati. I can't stand Notre Dame.
Go Bearcats!
Yes.
Okay. The CBS game at 2:30 for the SEC. That's Ole Miss and Alabama. And look, I mean, Look, Ole Miss. I know Lane Kiffin has his game circled in his e-calendar. So
Yeah.
look, they got some guys over there at Ole Miss. Jacob Ely. He can run the ball well. And look, Florida showed you that Jarian Ely, I should say, for Ole Miss, who's a running back. Look, I think Florida showed you that Alabama can be slowed down. They can be beat. So, do you think Ole Miss can do it?
They got to get pressure on the court. They have to get pressure on the quarterback. If they could do so, especially early in the game, they have a great chance in that hostile environment down like Tuscaloosa. If they don't, it's going to be a long day for them.
Should be a lot of fun. I'm sure you know that in Tuscaloosa that they're going to be rocking, so that should be a fun one. Oregon at Stanford. That's the ABC game at 2:30. Not to say that I'm sure Mario Chris will have his guys ready. I know Stanford, they don't have the talent, but that like they have in previous years. But I'm sure David Shaw will have his guys ready. So, if you're Mario Cristobal, I think you should. I'm not gonna say upset alert, but don't look past this game.
I agree. There also at 2:30 on Fox, we'll have number 6 Oklahoma traveling to Kansas State to face the Wildcats. OU's 11.5-point favorite. Lakina, all look forward to this game as offense, especially from the Sooners. They barely survived their home win against West Virginia last week with a 16-13 victory.
And also to remember, K-State upset OU the last time they played there a couple of years ago, so I'm sure they're going to want that revenge. Look, like I said before, OU's defense will make things interesting. They always do. So, this should be a good one here. I know K-State. I know they're kind of rebuilding. They got. But they got talent there. So I think like I said, don't look past. Like I said before, for with Oregon and Stanford, don't look past K-State. They're 3-1, and they'll be ready.
At 5 p.m. on ESPN, number 10, the Florida Gators will travel to Kentucky to take on the Wildcats, and also at 5 p.m. on ESPN Plus. Louisiana Tech at 2-2 will travel to number 23 NC State to face the Wolfpack. They're 3-1.
Yes. Hopefully, if you're NC State, you hope that they don't have a letdown after that big win against Clemson last week. that should be interesting there. There was another game I wanted to allude to. Ooh, where'd you go? Baylor and Oklahoma State. With the
can we say shootout of the OK Corral?
That's the ESPN 2 game. Oklahoma State with a nice win in Boise at Boise State with that blue turf. Baylor, of course, with an upset over Iowa State. This should be a good one here at Boone Pickens Stadium in Stillwater.
Your primetime game on ABC at 6:30 p.m. tomorrow will be number 4 Penn State. The Nittany Lions will host the Indiana Hoosiers. They check in at 2-2.
Yeah, I mean, Indiana, there was a lot expected from Indiana this year, but, I'm sure they'll be ready for this game. Michael Penix Jr. has had his struggles, has 4 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. That's not good. So I'm sure, I don't think it's going to be a whiteout there, but I'm thinking that if you're Penn State, I mean, you don't want to have to, take them lightly. I know a lot of what was expected from Indiana this year. So, but that should be a fun one there over there at Beaver Stadium. So that should be a good one. Stay with the Big Ten, going back here to 2:30 game. That'll be a Big Ten network. Rutgers as they host Ohio State. I mean, I know Rutgers, they lost to Michigan, could have won, I think Michigan kind of let them back in that game. But look, I'm not saying that Ohio State should be on upset alert, but I'm thinking that I'm sure Greg Schiano, I think, he's actually, I think he's beaten Ohio State once in his first tenure there. So I'm thinking that this could be an upset alert there for Ohio State. I'm just saying.
They haven't been dominant the last few games, so we'll see what happens there. At 6:30 p.m. on the Big Ten Network, the Northwestern Wildcats at 2-2 will travel to Nebraska to take on the Cornhuskers. The Cornhuskers are 2-3.
Yeah, both teams, a lot was more expected from these two teams this year. So, this is going to be a very interesting in the Big Ten West. But yeah, I'd take the under there if I were gambling. Now, it'll sit at 6:30 over the ACC network if you have it. Boston College, they're undefeated. I dare anybody ask did you guys had Boston College being undefeated in the ACC right now? Yeah, put your hands down. I don't even want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. And Clemson's hoping to hoping to bounce back from that loss at NC State. I mean, look, Boston College, they can run the ball. Like they've got like one of the top rushers, Garwo the third. So he's Pat Garwo the third. I'm sure they're already livening him that he should be in the Heisman talk. So we'll see what he does. But yeah, I mean, look, I'm not going to sit here and say that the dynasty with Clemson is over with. I saw that some of the questions on ESPN. Like, look, they have the talent. It's just not developed right now, and they're all very young. So we'll see how they bounce, and we'll see if Boston College is for real.
At 8 p.m. on ESPN, we have number 22, the Auburn Tigers, will travel to Louisiana to take on the LSU Tigers. Both teams check in at 3-1.
Always a great when these two play. The Battle of the Tigers, and look, I know LSU's had their struggles this year. Auburn, they had to pull a rabbit out of the hat against Georgia State at home.
Yeah.
So that should be a fun one. It could come down to a field goal. Who knows?
Let's stay on the West Coast. Lakina, as we all know, she loves her West Coast college football. At 8 p.m. on the Pac-12 network, we'll have Washington at 2-2 traveling to Oregon to take on the Oregon State Beavers. They're checking at 3-1.
Should be a good one there in Corvallis, because I think these two, again, Washington, a lot of people had high expectations. They have not, they haven't met those expectations. But Oregon State's been playing pretty well too. Like I said, they beat down USC pretty good at the Rose Bowl. So that should be a fun one. And also, speaking of the Rose Bowl, this should be a good one here. I know you're looking forward to this one, Sid. At 9:30 on FS1, they got Arizona State and number 20 USC. UCLA, I should say.
Yeah, battle of the former NFL head coaches, Herm Edwards for Arizona State and Chip Kelly for UCLA. He used to coach the Eagles about a decade ago. He was the first coach that took over for Andy Reid many moons ago. Let's go, Herm Edwards. You played to win the game. Should
be a good one there in the Rose Bowl. Also, too, last but not least, number 18, Fresno State at Hawaii. There's always at 10 o'clock. That's a really, really late game for those of us here on the East Coast. So that should be a good one. It's always usually our, that's like a CBS network, CBS Sports Network. So if you guys have that, if you want to, check out Hawaii and, play a little, late night football, there you go.
Yeah, that's some of our top games for tonight and tomorrow for the world of college football. Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 straight ahead. As you're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Lakina McGee, I am Cindy Brown. When we return, we're going to preview the Week 4 matchup in the NFL between our Chicago Bears and the Detroit Lions. We're going to have a very special guest for you to help us preview that game. You want to stay tuned for that one. You're listening to Sports Zone Chicago.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. In Sunday's Major League Baseball action, the Cubs got pounded 9-1 at home against Kansas City. The White Sox shut out on the road 9-0 at Tampa. NFL preseason on Saturday, the Bills hammered the Bears 41-15. Andy Dalton, 11 of 17, passing 146 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Justin Fields, 9 of 19 for 80 yards. Head coach Matt Nagy says Dalton remains the Week 1 starter and that Fields is ahead of schedule.
When you look at a guy like Justin and you see the things that he's doing, are there some things that he can get better at? Yeah, for sure. That's going to be, we're going to say that 3 years from now. But at the same point in time, for him, there's also things that he's doing better probably than we thought coming into this, which is good too. Like, that's what we want. We want that to happen.
Download the free Score app. Lightning fast updates so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Blue Star medicated ointment works fast to relieve the pain and itch of almost any skin irritation.
It's amazing. It's like as soon as you put it on, you can feel it working. We've had Blue Star in the family for years. It works on everything.
I love the cooling sensation on my athlete's foot.
What a relief for my eczema.
Nothing worked on my dry, cracked skin until I tried Blue Star.
Blue Star is great for scalp itch.
Look for the white box with the blue star in the first aid section. Feel Blue Star work fast or your money back.
Want to hear something amazing? Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year, automatically, dollar for dollar, with no limit on how much you can earn. Extra cash? Come on, how amazing is that? In fact, it's even more amazing when you realize all the places where Discover is accepted. 99% of places in the U.S. that take credit cards. So when it comes to Discover, get used to hearing yes more often. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2021 Nielsen Report. Limitations apply.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Hashtag Football Friday on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakita McGee. That's she. I'm Cindy Brown. That's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keenan_McGee on the IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps, whether it's an Apple iTunes Store or Google Play. Make sure that app says Sports Zone Chicago. You could catch our live shows, including this one right now. If you miss it, you can catch up on any of our 6 live shows as well via the podcast form. Let's kick off hour number 2 as we preview the NFL Week 4 matchup between our Chicago Bears and the Detroit Lions. The game will take place this Sunday at high noon Chicago time on the lakefront at Soldier Field. We brought on a special guest. He's a friend of the show and the other shows that I worked for in the past, including the D and Davis Show. He's the radio voice for the Detroit Lions. He does a great job with the Lomas Brown, and he's the sports director of Fox 2 Television in Detroit. We welcome on Mr. Dan Miller. Sir, welcome back to the program. How are you?
Hey, it's great to be here. Thank you. How you guys doing? I'm doing well.
Well, we were doing a well-being check on you after what happened against Baltimore with the Lions. We just want to. I told Sid we got to get him on because we want to kind of check on him and see how a well-being check. How are you holding up?
Well, I think that's the nature of the NFL. Is on Sunday night you feel terrible. Monday morning you wake up feeling bad, but a little bit better. Tuesday you're starting to turn the page, and Wednesday you're starting to look at the next one. So it's a league where you can't really afford to look back all that much. There's no doubt it was a brutal, gut-wrenching defeat. But, you only get 17 of these things, so you can't let something like that linger, whether you're trying to do a job like I am or, much more importantly, if you're a player or a coach, because you got another team that's looking for a bounce back this week, so you better be ready.
And speaking of getting ready, Dan, the Detroit Lions, yes, they're 0-3 on the season, as you well know. But Dan Campbell, he's been a joke of pretty much everybody, including us here on this show. In his introductory press conference, somebody wanted to set the tone and bite kneecaps and things along that nature. But even though he was setting the tone for the organization and for his players, even though they're 0-3, outside of that terrible first half against San Francisco and in the second half against Green Bay, this team has played hard for Mr. Campbell. I watched some of that game last week against Baltimore, and 2/3 of that game they outplayed Baltimore, but it just came down to that historic kick at the end. Talk about Dan Campbell's impact on this team so far, even though it's been a rough start record-wise.
Well, I think that one, just in terms of that press conference, I will say to you what I've said to everybody else who has said the same thing. You're talking about 30 seconds of a 90-minute press conference. And I defy anybody to watch that 90-minute press conference and then tell me that it wasn't exactly the tone that he needed to set for the fans, for the organization, for everybody that was watching, because he wasn't talking for the sake of talking. He was talking to people. So that aside, look, this team has played hard. They haven't played well long enough, and it's a 60-minute game, and they're finding that out. They're playing a lot of young guys on this team that are figuring out what it takes to win in this league and how one mistake somewhere along the line can cost you a game. I mean, they have multiple chances to put that game away on Sunday against the Ravens and didn't do it. Can look to a lot of young guys who had those opportunities and didn't do it. Well, those are hard lessons learned, but the hope is that as they learn them, they don't have to learn them again. And I think that's where they are right now. I think there have been some good things, but if there has been an overriding kind of theme to the season, it's that you can't play 30 minutes and win. Or in the case of the San Francisco game, you can't play 8 minutes and win. And I think that's where they are.
How's Jared Goff look so far? Of course, he got, he came, from the Rams in a trade, and now Matthew Stafford's putting up big numbers with the Rams, and he's actually been, Goff, has actually been pretty solid. So what have you liked from him so far?
Jared's done a really nice job. I think going into the season, if you looked at the Lions, you would have said there were probably 3 big question marks. One, could Jared Goff be the guy? And we're still going to get that answer in time. That's not 3 weeks and done, but he's been fine. Jared played well. But the questions were the secondary which has struggled, and wide receiver, where they've struggled. Now, the wide receiver part of it impacts Jared because he's not able necessarily to consistently pump the ball downfield and take big shots because guys aren't getting separation. They really haven't had a receiver that has consistently stepped up and been the guy that he can connect with and count on in clutch situations. Guys have done it here and there, but look, you lose Marvin Jones, you lose Kenny Galladay, you lose Danny Amendola. You're losing a lot from a receiving core, and they've not replaced that. And the guys that they brought in, while at times they've been okay, they haven't been good enough. Now, they've got time to continue to develop. You're talking about some young guys there that are trying to figure things out in this league. But I think Jared's done a really nice job. I think he's put him in position to have a chance to win a couple of these games. And I think that as the cast around him gets better, that Jared will get better. And, no question that Matthew's off to a great start in Los Angeles. And I didn't expect anything different. I'm a big Matthew Stafford fan, and I thought he'd go out there and play well. So here in Detroit, I think if you've looked at trying to figure out what the problems are, you wouldn't come up with Jared Goff being one of them through 3 weeks.
The voice of the Detroit Lions, Dan Miller, is on with us on Second City Sports on the hashtag Football Friday. Sid Lakina here with you on Sports Zone Chicago. Dan, let's focus in on the running game. DeAndre Swift, of course, that name's familiar with us Bears fans because he dropped a potential game-winning touchdown in last year's regular season opener. But you have a former Green Bay Packer named Jamal Williams, who's second on the team in rushing, 2 yards behind at 121 for the year. He's been making a big difference for you guys this year, and he scored a touchdown last week against Baltimore. Talk about his impact on the team.
Well, I think they've actually run the ball well. I think they've actually, unfortunately, at times in the San Francisco game and in the Green Bay game, got to a point where the scoreboard dictated they couldn't run it anymore. But they thought the offensive line would be a strength. At this point, it's been really good. And that's losing Taylor Decker 3 days before the season started. They're starting left tackle and having to shake things up. So I think the line's been good. I think the running game has been good. I think Jamal has been a real plus in terms of just the attitude that he brings to a locker room. The dude is just always on. He is just got a great outlook on life. He's always smiling. He loves the game. He's dancing from the moment he gets on the field, and it's infectious. I think talking to some people in Green Bay, they all to a man said, you guys got a good one there. We really miss him. It's just the business of the NFL that sometimes you can't afford to keep somebody, but Jamal has been everything advertised and more. And those two running backs have done a really nice job. Scoreboard sometimes, as I said, is dictated that they get kind of taken out of it a little bit, but Swift is one of the main reasons they came back in that game. They really fired him up and went through him in the second half. But I'd say right now for this team, if you're looking at strengths and weaknesses, running back with those two guys has been a strength.
What about their defense? They're going to be facing potentially, Justin Fields. He got sacked 9 times against the Browns last Sunday. What can the Lions defense do to kind of try to sort of exploit some of the deficiencies in the Bears O-line?
They're struggling right now in the secondary. To kind of backdoor to your point, they've got some young guys back there. They've lost 2 players that they thought would play key roles in Ifeatu Melifonwu and Jeff Okudah. Okudah done for the year, Melifonwu done for several weeks at least. They thought those guys Okudah would be a starter, Melifonwu would be a rookie who'd play a lot. They're both gone. They had a couple of blown assignments in that game last week that hurt them, in particular on that 4th and 19. Linebacker, they're kind of going through some changes there. They cut Jamie Collins. Derek Barnes has started to play more. Jalen Reeves-Maven started to play more. I think the strength of that defense is up front, and it's just starting to come together. They've got depth there. They've got young guys there that are figuring things out. But I think before this season ends, that defensive line for the Lions, look, you're not talking about Mack and Quinn and Hicks, but you're talking about a group that's taking a big step forward that I think has the potential to be very good and difference makers. And they did a nice job against Lamar Jackson last week. They made life pretty rough on him. And, Julian Okwara is another one of those young guys. You look at that 3rd down play last week's game, and he's got him wrapped up, but hit him too high, and Jackson got away. If he hits him about 6 inches to a foot lower, that clock's running. They're scrambling to get going on 4th down, and the game's probably over. So again, hard lessons to learn, but young players learning hard lessons. And I think that's one of the things when you're going through a rebuild that you see, and that's where they are right now. But I'm excited about that defensive line. I'm excited to see what they do this week. And they have to play well, frankly, against Chicago, and they have to make life difficult on whoever the quarterback is back there.
Going back to the Lions offense, you talk about the lack of playmakers from the wide receiver position. Let's talk about your tight end, TJ Hawkinson from Iowa. He leads the team in reception yards, and he has 2 touchdowns early in the season. Talk about his impact on the team, and what do you expect from him on Sunday against Chicago? Because it looks like we're going to get steady rain throughout the game on that bad turf at Soldier Field. I can see TJ Hawkinson. Yeah, I can see TJ Hawkinson having a big game. Sorry to say, but talk about your tight end.
Hawk is a really good player who's becoming one of the best tight ends in this league. The problem is, like what you saw against Baltimore, we had 2 catches for, I think, 10 yards. And teams are going to start to do everything they can to take it away and force some of those wide receivers to make some plays if they want to beat them. So while Hawk is terrific, it's going to be difficult on him when teams can really lock down on him and bracket him and double him and whatever it takes. So I think as the team starts to get better in other positions, that will help Hawk. But as it is now, he's clearly along with Swift, the best receiving threat they've got. But other teams know that too, and the Bears know that, and they're going to do everything they can to take him away. So they've got some work to do in ways to be innovative to try to get the football to him. But at the same time, it's kind of what we've talked about, a couple times already, is other guys have to make plays to make life easier on their teammates. There's 11 guys out there, and everybody's got to be a threat or do their job. And right now, that's something they're trying to grow into at receiver. But, long story short, he's a really, really good player who, if all goes as expected, he's a top, 5 to 8 tight end in this league, easy.
Who else in the receiving corps can step up then? If I'm sure he's gonna get a lot of looks. Who can step up for him?
Well, I think Quintez Cephas is a guy that we're all kind of looking at and waiting to see what he can do. He's shown flashes of being a big physical guy who's able to exploit some mismatches, but it hasn't been consistent. And I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is a rookie out of USC who looked, very comfortable in camp, but, things change when you get to the regular season. And I think he's trying to figure it out. Tyrell Williams was a guy they signed during the offseason. He's a legit NFL, probably number 2 receiver, but he's been out with a concussion. He's on injured reserve now. So I think that there's other players that have a chance to step up for them. Khalif Raymond made some plays in that game the other day. Trinity Benson is a guy that's only been here a couple of weeks from Denver. Kadero Hodge has only been here a couple of weeks since he got picked up. So, look, I don't know that there's anybody that you look at on that depth chart and you say, man, he should be the number 1 guy. I think there's possibilities there of guys that can step up and need to step up. And it's just an opportunity for somebody to have a job in the NFL. This is a wide open position for this team. These guys are all fighting to make a living in pro football. Well, guess what? Here's the best opportunity you're ever going to get to show what you can do, because this coaching staff's just waiting for somebody to step forward and become a consistent threat there. And when they do, they're not going to leave the field very often.
Halfway home with our guest, voice of the Detroit Lions, Mr. Dan Miller, is on with us on a hashtag Football Friday here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakina here with you. Dan, we talked about Matthew Stafford earlier. Of course, he's off to a hot start with the Rams, and rightfully so. There's been some national pundits that gave him the nickname Stats Patford, and there's other people that kind of, I want to say, undermine his tenure there in Detroit. He put up big numbers with now Hall of Famer Calvin Johnson. Do you think that Matthew Stafford was, just say, underappreciated at his time with Detroit? I know he gets a lot of the blame on why the Lions weren't successful on the field, but in terms of the numbers that Stafford put up in the Lions uniform, do you think that he was very much unappreciated and got so much of the unnecessary blame?
I think it's a polarizing conversation. I think there's some people that believe that. I think there's some people believe that he probably didn't get enough blame for the things that go wrong. I've been very clear in what I've said from the beginning. I think the failure was organizational. I don't think they put a good enough team around him. Better than 23rd in the league in rushing one time the entire time Matthew was here. Top half of the league defense, I think, one time the entire time he was here. Look, Matthew's a heck of a football player, but he's not somebody that's going to do it by himself. And they didn't put the requisite team around him to get it done. He's the same player now that he was here. But when he has an empty possession in Los Angeles, that defense gets him the ball right back. When he had one here, the defense would give up points and he'd get it back 2 scores down. So as the level of the team rises, Matthew will rise. He's plenty good enough to win in the playoffs. I believe he's plenty good enough to win a Super Bowl. But he's maybe not one of those top tier Brady, Rodgers, Breeze when he was there type guys that's going to almost will a team to victory by themselves. He is one of those guys that I think is that next level down where he's got to have things right around him. And if he is, he's plenty good enough to win. I think, in the long run, I think people are stuck in their positions here in Detroit. It was 12 years of, I think him playing his tail off and giving everything he's got to this franchise. But, I think some people looked at it like they're not winning and they're not winning because of him. I didn't see it that way. I thought there were other reasons involved.
There were definitely multiple reasons. Now, let's talk a bit about head coach Dan Campbell. I mean, we've all seen this quirky, pressers and things like that. So what's he really like? I know you said earlier that it's just like maybe a 30, 45 second, snippet of like a 90-minute presser. So tell us what he's like, outside of all like the weird and quirkiness.
He's a great guy. He's a great guy who's going to tell you exactly what he thinks. I mean, I covered Dan as a player here, and he was the same kind of guy then, a little more quiet then than he is now. But he's just himself. There's no BS with him. He's going to tell you exactly what he's thinking. He's the most open coach at a press conference I've ever seen. And I think the players appreciate that. I know the media appreciates that. And I think that he came in here with the attitude and told people right off the bat, this isn't a quick fix. And he didn't promise a quick fix. I mean, there's a reason this team fired their head coach and fired their general manager. They weren't good. They haven't been good. And the roster's been getting worse. So you got to rebuild this thing. And you got to have somebody in there who can put together a culture and a way of doing business that defines the Detroit Lions that we haven't had in a long, long time. And I think that, it is, I look, guys, I fall in love with a lot of coaches, and there's a reason those guys are there. They know football. They've got some charisma to them, so they can talk a good game. And the question sometimes is, do the players follow them? Do the players buy into it? What I think doesn't matter. What do the players think? Well, these players love their head coach, and they're fighting for their head coach, and they love the coaching staff that he's put together. So I think he's done a lot of things right. There's a long way to go, and his success or failure is going to be written over the next several years. And, also Brad Holmes, the general manager, and what kind of talent acquisition they can have. So I think I think he's the right guy at the right time for the job. But frankly, what I think doesn't matter. It's ultimately going to be what the results are. But if you're looking for something tangible right now, players are playing hard for him. Young players are starting to figure things out. 5-6 games, I'll have a better feel for it. Are these young guys getting better? Are they making the same mistakes? I think that's the key that we haven't had here in a long time is player development, guys coming in, getting better, getting a second contract because they've earned it. Draft picks that come here and get better, don't just come here and flame out. So there's a lot that has to be decided. But what's he like? I think he's a hell of a guy. I think he's somebody you'd want to play for. And I think he's somebody these guys want to play for. And coming off what they were coming off of, which was Matt Patricia, another guy I liked, got along with him great, but it didn't work here. I think this is a different kind of personality that fits this team and something they needed in the wake of that.
Final moments with Dan Miller, the voice of the Detroit Lions, right here on the hashtag Football Friday on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakina here with you. Dan, I know things are getting back to normal slowly with fans back in the stands, and we love watching that on television. Of course, you're traveling here along with Lomas Brown to Chicago to call the game for the Lions on Sunday. talk, of course, last year it was a total different story with you guys, broadcasters not traveling, doing games from a studio. Talk to us what kind of challenge was it to call games from one spot last year, not being able to travel?
Well, I mean, here's the good part. I'll start with that. When the game ended 20 minutes later, I was in my car driving home with no traffic. So that's the good part. Wasn't
I hear
jumping
you.
on a plane or fighting to get to an airport or anything like that. But let me say this. It's always better to be there. The league did a really nice job of giving us the best tools we could have to call a game from a remote place. Big, all 22 cameras, close enough to see numbers. And we had big television set up in our studio. So, I applaud the Lions, who gave us a great setup. I applaud the league, who gave us access to great cameras and things like that. So you got used to it. You had crowd noise in your ear. It's not the same. You kind of, as a play-by-play announcer, ride the wave of the crowd and feel their emotion. So you couldn't do that. But look, after a couple quarters, you got used to it. And it was just back to calling a football game, and you had a job to do. I wouldn't want to do that again. I prefer to do it the way that we're doing it now. I understood why we did it, and it was the appropriate choice at the time. But I love being there, feeling the crowd. That's why we do what we do. We love that atmosphere, and I'm glad we're back doing it that way now. And it's been a lot of fun to do it for 3 weeks.
Yeah, the atmosphere was missing last year in those stadiums and arenas. It's just, there's nothing like it. Now, I know you can't say a score and you can't say who will win, because you're going to be calling the game, but locally. But what are the keys to a Lions win over the Bears?
Well, I think the Lions have to play 60 minutes. I mean, look, if they play the way they did in the first half against Green Bay, they got a great shot. If they play the way they did in the second half against Baltimore, they got a great shot. We've seen them play well. They have to do it over 60 minutes. Now, look, the other team's got something to do with that, but they've also had a lot of self-inflicted errors. So up front, they got to be stout. They got to stop Montgomery. They got to put the game on whoever the quarterback is to throw it, and then they got to harass him when he does. In the secondary, got to have coverage. I mean, look, we know Alan well from being from Orchard Lake St. Mary's here in Metro Detroit. He's a great player, and he's been a pain in our backsides every time we've played the Bears. So we got to figure out some way to stop him as well. And then defensively, look, you have game-changing players up there with Mack and Quinn and Hicks and Smith. I mean, those guys can flip a game on a dime. You have to know where they are and control them. And it doesn't mean you're going to be able to do it the whole game. You won't. So I think that it's incumbent upon them and Goff to get everybody in the right position and try to avoid the quick change plays that the Bears thrive off of and can kill you on the road in the NFL, where the emotion gets, against you, and, you give them, look, if you got a struggling quarterback in Chicago, which I'm not counting on, but if he's going to get going, don't give him a 20-yard field to do it, where you turn the ball over and make it easy on him. Make it hard. Make whoever's in there go, 75, 80 yards, and make them go in 10 plays so they can make a mistake somewhere along the line. So, look, it's probably the same in a lot of different cities. It's about playing a complete game, not making penalties and turnovers that cost you and make your job more difficult, and try to find some consistency on offense with these guys. And look, they can do it. I've seen them do it. It's just a matter of doing it for a longer period of time, because that's what it takes to win in this league.
Last question from me, Dan. Your organization honored Hall of Fame wide receiver Calvin Johnson during the halftime ceremony of last week's loss to the Baltimore Ravens. I was my only Bears game in person was at the 2015 regular season finale. Of course, that was Calvin Johnson's last game. No one knew at the time, but that was his last game as a pro, as a Lion. What story can you tell us that the public doesn't know about Mr. Johnson? What made him such a special player and a special person?
Man, there's so many. I mean, number one, he was, I'm actually hosting an event to induct Calvin into the Michigan Sports Hall of Fame tonight. And, I've had a lot of time to think about this. And, Calvin grew up here. And I think back, I watched his Hall of Fame speech, and it was beautiful and eloquent. And I think back to the guy that I hosted a radio show with when he was a rookie, and he didn't speak in longer than 8-second sentences. So it was just, he was shy. He was trying to figure it out. Always humble, always as classy as can be. But now I see him, and he's grown into a man, a husband, a father, a businessman, and I'm so proud of him. And I think what I would say to people is just the understanding of the difficulties that he went through when he played. Third game of his career against Philadelphia, he goes up and lands on his back and couldn't feel his legs. And for the rest of his rookie season, just played hurt. And, other seasons where he's playing with fingers that won't bend and he's trying to catch the ball like this, and Matthew Stafford's throwing it 100 miles an hour. And just the different ways that he battled through, losing and still fought and battled through double teams and triple teams to still be as good as he was. He's just, he's as good a dude as he is a football player. And I think that's what I'll always remember. And I love everything that I'm seeing happen for him. It's so well deserved. From the moment he walked in, he did things the right way and just battled through everything. Not a guy that ever sought the limelight. Not a guy that ever looked for people to come to his locker and interview him. He'd have been very happy if he never had to say a word to anybody. But man, he spoke loudly when he was on the field.
If those of you who didn't get a chance to see his Hall of Fame speech from about a little over a month ago, check it out, because it's really, you got to know a little bit about the real Calvin Johnson in that clip. So make sure you guys check that out.
Yeah, real quick story before we let you go, Dan. Of course, I'm sure you remember this game. It was the 2010 regular season opener between the Bears and the Lions. Of course, Calvin Johnson thought that he scored the game-winning touchdown. Of course, the NFL had that. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, he did.
Even though I'm a Bears fan, I was mad that he scored the touchdown. Of course, the NFL had that stupid rule to complete the process. I was playing fantasy football that year with my buddies. Of course, as a Bears fan, I was upset when that play happened, but about like 5 seconds later, I was really angry. I said I had Calvin Johnson starting on my fantasy team, and they're going to take 6 points off my score sheet, and I end up losing that week because of that NFL silly rule. So I wanted to share that story with you before we let you go about Calvin Johnson.
It's part of the lexicon here in Detroit. Complete the process, or the Calvin rule, or whatever you want to call it. Believe me, that one's never gone away and never will. It's look, you gotta make enough plays in a game that it doesn't come down to that. But that was pretty bad that it ended up that way. But it's the sad thing is that should have been another great play that he made to win a game, and it was a great catch going up and grabbing that and coming down with it. It was ridiculous. But all these years later, we can just look at it and think about all the other great plays that he made.
Yes.
Yep. There you go. That was Dan Miller, the radio voice of the Detroit Lions. He does a great job with Lomas Brown. Dan, thank you so much. Thank you very much for joining us here today on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. You and Lomas have a safe flight to Chicago. Call a great game. It should be another good one with rain in the forecast at Soldier Field on Sunday. Congrats on your success. Much continued success, and let's do this again soon.
Appreciate it, guys. Same to you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Stay safe.
And of course, there was Dan Miller, the radio voice of the Detroit Lions. He does a great job with Lomas Brown. I believe their flagship station is 97.1 FM, The Ticket in Detroit. So check out their pregame show starting Sunday morning for those of you who can listen to it around the country on the various apps and websites. So, Lakina, real quick before we take this last time out, let's give our quick synopsis on the game. We'll give you our predictions on the flip side with the rest of our picks. Lakina, is going to come down to, for the Bears running the football with David Montgomery. What will the actual offensive play calling look like when Matt Nagy actually call the plays, or will it be handing it off to somebody else, or at least give the look, using quotation marks for those who listen to our audio version? How will the play calling look like for Chicago? How many yards will David Montgomery get on the ground? Remember, last year, the Bears got out to that hot start against Detroit here in Chicago before they turned the ball over in that fourth quarter, and the Lions came out to win it, courtesy of your guy, Adrian Peterson. But I want to see how the Bears run the ball, and how much can Justin Fields throw on the run? Will he be able to use his tight ends more? Will they expand the playbook? And on defense, can they get to Jared Goff early? I believe they can do so. If they can, it's going to be a dominating day for this Bears team, despite the potential rainfall we can get throughout the game.
Well, also too for me, it's going to be the weather. I mean, the rain. We don't know how much it's going to rain. Is it going to be an on and off rain? Is it going to be a steady rain? Is it going to be just sprinkles and stuff like that? So I think that's going to be the key. And it looks like running the ball. Who's going to run the ball better? I mean, we know. Look, we know Jamal Williams. He had some big runs against the Bears. So we know.
Yes.
Bears fans are pretty familiar with him. And also too, can David Montgomery? Are they going to run the ball with David Montgomery? So again, this could be one of those 9-6, 6-3. I know I keep bringing it up like every week, it seems, as a kind of a theme, but we may see that, especially with the weather not looking too good for it, especially against that turf. So it's going to be very interesting though with this game. Like I said, these two teams, your NFC North rivals battling out, both need get right games. So it's all going to be relative to who's going to, be more efficient. We know Detroit's not going to be in a very good mood after what happened those last couple of games. The Bears probably won't be either. So it's all going to depend on who shows up, and that's going to be the key.
Yes, that's going to be the key. We're going to take this last pause for the calls. When we return here on #Football Friday, Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, we'll give you our Week 4 NFL picks, which features our good friend, Miss Christine Manika. And we're going to have a couple other headline stories as well to wrap up the show for this week. Along with Lakina McGee, I am Sydney Brown. Stay tuned.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. In Sunday's Major League Baseball action, the Cubs got pounded 9-1 at home against Kansas City. The White Sox shut out on the road 9-0 at Tampa. NFL preseason on Saturday, the Bills hammered the Bears 41-15. Andy Dalton, 11 of 17 passing, 146 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Justin Fields, 9 of 19 for 80 yards. Head coach Matt Nagy says Dalton remains the Week 1 starter and that Fields is ahead of schedule.
When you look at a guy like Justin and you see the things that he's doing, are there some things that he can get better at? Yeah, for sure. That's going to be, we're going to say that 3 years from now. But at the same point in time, for him, there's also things that he's doing better probably than we thought coming into this, which is good too. Like, that's what we want. We want that to happen.
Download the free Score app. Lightning fast updates so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Blue Star medicated ointment works fast to relieve the pain and itch of almost any skin irritation.
It's amazing. It's like as soon as you put it on, you can feel it working. We've had Blue Star in the family for years. It works on everything.
I love the cooling sensation on my athlete's foot.
What a relief for my eczema.
Nothing worked on my dry, cracked skin until I tried Blue Star.
Blue Star is great for scalp itch.
Look for the white box with the blue star in the first aid section. Feel Blue Star work fast or your money back.
Want to hear something amazing? Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year, automatically, dollar for dollar, with no limit on how much you can earn. Extra cash? Come on, how amazing is that? In fact, it's even more amazing when you realize all the places where Discover is accepted. 99% of places in the U.S. that take credit cards. So when it comes to Discover, get used to hearing yes more often. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2021 Nielsen Report. Limitations apply.
Welcome back to #Football Friday here on Sports Zone Chicago. Along with Miss Lakina McGee, I am Sydney Brown. It is now time for our NFL Week 4 pick whatever the hell you want to call it, pigskin pickoff.
I guess.
Yeah, pigskin pickoff. As we give you our picks for all the games that's going on around the National Football League. Lakina, do you have the totals through 3 weeks so far for yours truly, yourself, and Miss Christine Manika?
Well, you're still up a game on me. Now, Christine, unfortunately, is now 2 games back. But the good news is that, look, there's still a lot of time left in the season. So we're coming for you, Sid.
Thank you. In case you just noticed, Christine is not able to join us today. She's on a broadcasting assignment for her radio station for a charity event. Lakina, do you have more information about that so our listeners can help her out?
Yeah, she's actually doing, actually the station KXRB is doing a radiothon to to benefit kids cancer, pediatric cancer. So you guys we'll have the info on the screen, but for kids cancer, cure kids cancer, it is 1-800-601-5085. So I can get that on the screen for you. That's 1-800-601-5085. It's I'm sure Sid will probably have it on the screen. Also, you can text the word CASTLE to 5155. So make sure you guys do what you can, and look, this is what you can. So donate what you can, whether it's $1 or $100. We'll have the info on the screen for you for a little bit. One more time before we go to our picks. That's 1-800-601-5085, or you can text the word CASTLE, KASTLE, to 5155. So make sure you guys check that out and donate what you can.
Yes, donate what you can. So Christine will be back on with us live next week, but she left us her picks for this week's games. Lakina, let's get it started.
All right. So first up on the docket, we've got the 2-1 Titans versus the winless Jets.
Tennessee is getting back on track. Of course, they had the upset win against Seattle a couple of weeks ago. They had a big win at home against the struggling and injured Indianapolis Colts. So that's 2 in a row for the Titans. Let's make that 3 in a row. But they better be careful because the Jets, even though they're struggling, they're going through a rebuild themselves. If the Titans just throw their cleats out there, expected to come out there with a win without playing to their potential, it could be trouble, but I don't sense that with this team. I'm going with the Titans on the road. I believe that's in New York, correct?
Yes, it is. And
okay.
I think the Titans have this game. I feel like I think just give Derrick Henry the ball. Just give him the ball. Just give him the ball, let him run for like 188 yards, like 3 touchdowns, and you'll get out there with a win, and probably a shutout win. And Miss Christine says a no-brainer for her. We've got the Titans, so a sweep first off the bat. All right, the battle of 1 and 2s, and one team you probably thought didn't think would be 1 and 2, but they are. You got the Chiefs and the Eagles.
Yeah, the Chiefs coming off that tough loss last week to the San Diego Chargers of Los Angeles, as we call them on this show. Of course, Philadelphia got embarrassed on the road at Dallas in front of a national audience on Monday night. The Eagles are a young team. Some people thought they could surprise some people this year. It doesn't look that way. In Kansas City, they really need this game bad. They want to stay as a top contender for a Super Bowl in the National Football League. I'm going with the Chiefs big in Philadelphia.
I'm sort of like right there with you. I think the Chiefs are looking for something to kind of, they're not going to be in a very good mood. I think we can honestly say. I mean, they're not, after those last couple of losses. So this is going to be, I don't want to say this is going to be a get right game, but I feel like this is going to be one of those games where, I think Patrick Mahomes is going to have his best game of the season, and I think he's just going to, do his thing. So I think the Chiefs are going to win this. They're going to win it. We're going to pull by pulling away late. And Miss Christine said the same thing. She also has a Chiefs, so another sweep. That might not be good. Yeah, Jalen Hurts might have his best game right now. Game of his career. I'm just saying.
Don't tell them that.
right. Oh, they might be ready. No, but yeah. So we got the Cure Kids Cancer cause on the screen. So they got the number and the text. So guys, give away what you can. Now back to business here, and the tricky one here, in Jerry's world in Arlington, you got the Panthers, 3-0 Panthers, and the Cowboys.
I was really looking forward to this game. I'll still watch some of this game live via my computer. But Christian McCaffrey being out for the Panthers just really dampened my spirits just a little bit. Sam Darnold, the world's gonna be pressure's gonna be placed on the shoulders. That Dallas Cowboys offense got on a roll last week, putting up a 41-piece against the Philadelphia Eagles. They're at home again. I think it's going to be kind of a tough game, but I believe Dallas is going to pull it out in the second half. So I'm going with the Cowboys in a rare noon home game.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a rare noon game, right, for the Cowboys. I mean, usually have like 325s, but I'm going to step out. Spot. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to step out.
Okay.
I'm gonna step out. I'm gonna take the Panthers. I feel like Sam Darnold, especially too, they've got some injury issues with the Cowboys. I know the Panthers also have some injury issues as well, but I feel like they want to show folks that they're for real. I think Sam Darnold is gonna gonna do well. I think he's gonna have his best game of the season. And like, remember too, Lyle Collins is out, so you gotta think that defense for the front side is actually pretty good. So I'm gonna pick the Panthers in the upsets. Like I said, I'll probably be wrong, but I'm gonna go ahead and step out. So.
At least you put them on the table.
I'll put it on the table. I'm gonna put my parlays out. So and Christine, she has the Cowboys, so it should be a very entertaining one. I feel like. All right, so I think we can kind of skip this one to get the 0-3 Giants against New Orleans. Look, as long as Jameis Winston doesn't do anything, asinine and stupid, I think the Saints should be in good shape here. So I'm going to pick the Saints.
Yeah, this will be the Saints' true home opener. Of course, their original home opener was in Jacksonville due to the hurricane, so there's going to be a lot of excitement. So fans will be allowed back in the building at the Mercedes-Benz Superdome in. This is not going to be quite like 2006 when they beat down Michael Vick and the Falcons back in 2006 on their famous Monday Night Football game. But I think it's going to be halfway there. The Saints players will be fired up. Their fans will be fired up. The Giants are terrible.
Yeah.
That's all needs to be said. Go Saints.
Yeah, terrible, I think is a word you use. And, Christine, another no-brainer for her. She has the Saints. All right, so next up, you got the Texans and the Bills. I know the Texans are coming off of, having 10 days off, but I think the Bills are churning along. They're kind of, they're getting right back on track after that early loss to Pittsburgh. So I think Josh Allen has a good game. I think the defense has a pretty good game. I think they're going to give Davis Mills a hard time, that Bills defense. So I'm going to pick the Bills in a one-sided victory.
Same here. I'm going with Buffalo. How many sacks will they get on that quarterback?
What's the over/under?
Oh, that's a good one. That
should be a parlay if you guys want to play that.
It should be.
How many
I'll say
times
7.5.
Yeah.
At least for this show, I'll say 7.5.
7.5. Oh gosh, that might be. I'll give it like 5. I'll give them 5.
Body bag territory.
Yeah, I'll say yeah. Christine has Buffalo, so we have another sweep. All right, you got the 0-3 Colts against the Dolphins.
I'm going in a little bit of a shocker. I'm going with the Colts. The Colts didn't play that badly.
Would that really be a shock, though?
I think it would be a shocker if Tua was playing, but since he's not playing, I know Miami put up a good fight at Las Vegas last week. I almost said Oakland, good grief. But I know Miami put up a fight last week at Las Vegas. But I think that loss in overtime took a lot out of them. The Colts didn't look that bad, didn't look that great, but they didn't look that bad either. I think for the Colts, as long as you don't turn that ball over and Wentz doesn't get hurt, you run that ball, you could come out of there with a victory. So Miami's emotions are down right now. If you're the Colts, just come in there, dominate. The defense should get back on track. The offense should get back on track. I'm going with the Colts on the road.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's probably going to be the reason why I am picking the Colts. I think the Colts, I know they've had some, guys banged up. We'll see. I don't know if Nelson's going to be able to play, but the Dolphins, like I said, I think their spirit's a little bit broken, especially with Tua being out. Not to say that Brissett, he's a veteran, he knows what to do, and, he can, keep the train on the track, so to speak, but we might have a pick six from Xavier Howard, who knows, but I kind of feel like this is the point where I think the Colts really need this win. Actually, both teams do, but the Colts need to win especially. So I'm going to pick the Colts. This is going to be kind of like a get-right game for them. And actually, you know what? Christine said no. She's picking Miami. So we'll see. But I think either way, I don't think we should be surprised. All right, you got Washington, Atlanta, the battle, I should say, the 1 and 2s.
Washington and Atlanta. I want to pick Washington, but they looked so terrible last week against Buffalo. It wasn't even funny. I know Buffalo was a good team, and I knew they were going to win. I didn't think they were going to put up 41 points against a good defense from a year ago. I think Washington will play better, but I don't think it's going to be enough. I need Antonio Gibson, their run back, to put us some big numbers for my fantasy team. But with that being said, on the flip side, you have the Atlanta Falcons. It was an ugly game to watch against the Giants last week, but they came out of there with the last second. Yeah, they came out there with the last second field goal to win the game. Matt Ryan looked good in the fourth quarter. I expected to put up some more above average numbers at home, so I'm going with the Falcons.
Yeah, I'm picking Atlanta too, just because I don't trust Washington, and pains me to say this because I love Ron Rivera, but the talent, I just don't see the talent there right now for Washington. I know they've got have had some guys nicked up, so this could be one of those games where maybe Atlanta turns the corner. I mean, I know a lot of people have had Atlanta as sort of like a sleeper team in the NFC. So could this be that game? We'll see. So I'm picking Atlanta, and Christine feels the same way. So she's picking Atlanta. So again, it's gonna be one of those tough games to watch. But more power to whoever's gonna call that game. But this could be one of those rough ones.
Yep, more power to them.
Yeah, the first of the 3 o'clock games, you got this in the NFC West, you got the Seahawks 1-2 and the 49ers.
This is a tough game, a classic NFC West battle. These two teams have been battling for the last decade or so. Last week, the 49ers lost on the last-second field goal to the Packers. They should have won that game. Seattle, they didn't look that hot in the fourth quarter, blowing that lead against the Minnesota Vikings on the road in a rare loss on the road in the Eastern time zone. I want to go 49ers, but I'm going to stick my neck out there and pick Seattle. Seattle, they had Minnesota early, but they didn't look that great late in that fourth quarter. I just got a feeling that Russell Wilson will have his troops ready to bounce back. So I'm going – I may be wrong, and that's okay. But I'm going to stick my neck out there and go with Seattle on the road.
Yeah, I'm picking Seattle too. I kind of feel like they let the loss, the game against Minnesota slip away, and I think they need to kind of get back on track. So I'm thinking, they need something to kind of get the confidence going, after the last couple of weeks. So I'm thinking that Russell Wilson will lead them to a victory on the road. I feel like San Fran, they're too inconsistent for me, and their injuries are still, they're still a little banged up. So I'm gonna pick Seattle, and Christine agrees. She also has Seattle. So,
well, she loves her some Russell Wilson. That's why.
Yeah, we know. Yeah, right. So that should be a fun one there. Another fun one here in the NFC West. Another 3 o'clock here on Fox. You got the Cardinals and the Rams.
I'll be watching this game in its entirety via my computer. Who expected the Cardinals to be 3-0? I didn't. We expected them to be a mediocre or perhaps above average team, but shout out to Kyler Murray, early season favorite for MVP, perhaps. Of course, the Rams we talked about in our last segment. Matthew Stafford's off to a hot start, and rightfully so, with better weapons around him with the Rams. I think it's going to be a close game early, but the Rams are going to pull it out at the end. So I'm going with the Rams.
Okay, you would think I would know better, but I'm going to go ahead and pick Los Angeles, the Rams. I think they're showing you that they're the top team, not only in the NFC West, but also in all the NFC, maybe even the NFL. So this could be a chess match between those two. I think it's going to be a very high scoring affair. I think so. I think this is good. This should be interesting. This should be one of the games of the week. I think so. I'm going to pick Los Angeles just because they're at home, and Christine feels the same way. She's picking Los Angeles, the Rams. So. Should be a fun one there out there over at SoFi Stadium.
Yeah, this should be fun.
All right. One of the big ones here on CBS. Get the Steelers and the Packers.
Oh, that's right. That's the national game of the week for CBS. Jim Nantz will be calling that game with Tony Romo. Yep. Unless these two teams meet in the Super Bowl, which I don't see happening, this will be the last time we'll get to see Ben Roethlisberger versus Aaron Rodgers. Of course, Pittsburgh's been struggling. They lost their last 2 games at home. They lost last week to Cincinnati in ugly fashion. Green Bay has gotten back on track. I think it's going to be an ugly game again. I think they're going to get the same weather as we are here in Chicago in terms of the rain, which means you run the ball, and let's see who gets the most turnovers. Whoever does those 2 things will win the ball game. Green Bay's at home. I'm giving the edge to the Packers.
I'm picking the Packers, so I'm going to keep it short. Yeah, I kind of feel – excuse me. I feel like Pittsburgh, I don't know, and you can tell Big Ben doesn't look very good. You can tell the wear and tear is starting to show. And as Christine mentioned, I'm saying this verbatim. Aaron Rodgers is going to do Aaron Rodgers things, and I think he's going to do just that. I think they're going to run the ball, and with Aaron Jones, I think that's going to be enough for him to win. So I'm picking Green Bay, and so is as you see a preview of who Christine picked up. She's picking Green Bay too, so should be a good one. Another fun one here. The other 3:25 game on CBS. You got the Ravens and the 3-0 Broncos.
This should be fun, Lakina. The Ravens defense, they got exposed, especially in that fourth quarter against the Lions before they pulled out a historic victory on the road. Can Marquise, aka Hollywood Brown, can he keep his hands on the ball this week? He had 2 drops in that third quarter last week. If he didn't have those 2 drops, the game would have been a sort of a blowout. But with that being said, on the flip side for Denver, they've been running the ball very well all year long. Their defense has showed up. Von Miller, he's found some youth in those legs, in those arms, sacking those quarterbacks. Teddy Bridgewater, their quarterback. Shout out to our colleague in front of the show, Romy Beans. She's doing a great job with CBS4 in Denver covering that team, by the way. But Teddy Bridgewater, their quarterback, has not turned the ball over. You don't ask him to do too much. He's doing a great job at it. I think this game is going to be closer than what people expect. I'm going a little bit of a shocker. I know I'm going to regret this later, but I'm going with Denver. Call me crazy. I'm going with Denver. Because of the altitude and the home field advantage. I'm going with Denver.
Yeah, I might regret this, but I'm going to pick Denver too because of the altitude and they're at home. But look, watch Lamar Jackson throw for 300 some yards and 4 touchdowns, and Marquise Brown's going to have 2 of those touchdowns, and Justin Tucker will be hitting 80-yard field goals. He might, you never know.
Yeah, especially in that altitude. Yeah, keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Yeah,
it might come to that, but I picked Denver. I think Denver, keeps rolling, and Christine feels the same way. She's picking Denver too, so I'm already guessing that I'm already going to regret this. So
I'm already guessing. Yeah, I'm worried about this one already.
I am worried about that too. Yeah. All right, with the Adele songs, I wish we could have Adele playing in the background because apparently that's going to be the thing here. And the Tom Brady's come back to Foxborough. James White's out because of the hip injury, and et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to keep it short. I'm picking Tampa. It'll end up being a blowout. All this hype that NBC is doing. They had the Today Show there earlier. I think Lester Holt's going to be broadcasting from Foxborough, later on today for NBC Nightly News. But it's not going to be close. I'm picking Tampa. I'm sorry. Brady's not going to be in a very good mood himself after losing to the Rams. So I'm going to pick Tampa, and it's gonna be a blowout.
What a coincidence! We saved all of our show until this moment to talk about the Brady, Belichick, Buccaneers, Pats saga.
We're such good people.
Exactly. You just stole the words right out of my mouth. Brady is going to have at least 320 yards passed, probably more than that, but I'll say at least 320 and 3 to 4 touchdowns. If you have him on your fantasy team or you're playing daily fantasy, pick him up because he's going to have a big game.
Yeah, I think the defense is going to take it out on poor Mac Jones. So if I were Mac Jones, I would probably run right now. And
exactly.
Christine also has Tampa. So yeah, so I think this is actually the one game where if we were doing confidence picks, this would be probably my highest. So
yeah,
there you go. A good Monday nighter here in the AFC West. You got the 3-0 Las Vegas Raiders and the Los Angeles Chargers.
I'm actually looking forward to this game. The West Coast is finally getting some love in prime time.
Yes, finally.
They're getting some love in other ways. We'll get to that in just a second.
Mm-hmm.
But the Chargers and the Raiders, who would have thought that that these two teams would be competitive? Raiders, we didn't expect them to be undefeated to start the year. I know I didn't. The Chargers, no one expected them to do what they did last week against the Kansas City Chiefs, but they earned their victory. I'm going with the Chargers. I might regret this one too, but it's going to be a close game. It's a division matchup. I know the Raiders stole one there last year with no fans, but fans are going to be there this year, this time around. I'm going with the Chargers in a close one. I think it can come down to a last-second field goal.
Which it could. And remember, too, that's how the Raiders won 2 of their 3 games is because of last-second field goals. So, Derek Carr versus Justin Herbert. I don't think the Chargers are going to have that sort of that hangover for beating the Chiefs. I know some people were afraid of that, but I think the Chargers are going to do just enough to win this game. I think because I feel like they should be 3-0 too. But again, we won't talk about the Cowboys game. But I'm picking the Chargers. I'm good. Yeah, I think their defense. I think their defense is going to slow down Derek Carr, and I don't trust that Raiders defense. I'm sorry, I don't. And yeah, I think Justin Herbert's going to have a great game on his Monday night debut. And yeah, it should be a fun one. But Christine has Las Vegas because she loves Derek Carr, so it should be a good one there. And
one game that you skipped before we get to the Bears game, Cleveland and Minnesota. Did you get to that one?
No, I did that intentionally. Actually. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, okay.
But no, I'm kidding. But I'm kidding though. Yeah, I know I skipped that one. I was going to go back to that one. But yeah, I mean, you know what? Look, Cleveland, Minnesota. I mean, controlled environment. I'm going to hate myself for. I might regret to say, but I'm going with Minnesota in the upset. I kind of feel like Minnesota. I think they're starting to turn the corner. I think their defense. Dalvin Cook, remember he didn't play last week, so and they, the Seahawks were able to beat the Seahawks. So he's questionable too. He could be back. I know Anthony Barr is also questionable too. So I think this could be one of those grinding out games. But I think the Vikings might win. They get back to 500. I might regret that later, but that's my upset of the week.
You make really good points. I need Dalvin Cook for my fantasy team. His backup, which I picked up Mattison. He gave me some good points last week.
He was good last week, yeah.
But Cleveland, I don't think they'll have that dominant of a performance defensively. But all you need is a couple of turnovers from Kirk Cousins, you win the game. So I'm going with Cleveland, and they can run the ball as well. And it's going to come down to the running game for both teams. I'm really looking forward to this one.
This should be a lot of fun too. It's going to be the battle of the running game. I think that's going to be who will slow who down. And Christine said it's going to be a barn burner too. She agrees, but she's speaking Cleveland, so she agrees with you, Sid. So, but that should be one of the more entertaining games, kind of for CBS. That's a noon game too, so that should be a good one. And of course, last but not least, you got the Bears and the Lions. Like I said, Rays expected. Again, it's going to be about the run game. This should be a get right game. Apparently, Eddie is questionable, and but Justin Fields says this sounds much better. Matt Nagy's gonna do the any, meeny, miny, mo method. As long as he doesn't do anything cute, the Bears should win this game. But then again, I don't know. So that's another thing I'll probably regret later. So, but I'm picking the Bears.
Can it get worse?
If you lose to Alliance, it can get worse.
Can it get worse? Can it get worse?
Oh my God.
Can it get worse? I'll make this quick. I know the Bears were embarrassed last week. We said this last year. The defense, they can only do so much. When does the offense step up? I think the weather will have something to do with that. I think the offense does stuff. I don't know if it's going to be a dominating performance, which I doubt, but it should be. But I doubt it. The Bears, it will probably be what's that word I'm looking for? It'll probably be similar to like how they won the game against Cincinnati. You think it's going to be dominant, but they'll do a couple of things to shoot themselves in the foot, and they'll hang over for a victory. I expect that same formula to happen here on Sunday. So I'm going with the Bears. It should be dominant, but they'll do a couple of stupid things to let the Lions hang around.
Which could be the case. It might actually really be the case. This might be an up and down. And yeah, Christine felt the same way. She said that she's picking the Bears, but the Lions are struggling, but no one knows what's going to happen. So
yeah,
that's probably what we're going to do here.
Yeah, real quick before we close, I know we'll get to our main story in just a second, but Lakina gave me some great news this week. Perhaps Fox was listening to us.
Yes.
We get the all-brother crew. Gus Johnson, Keith Talib calling the Bears-Lions game. They're going to actually make me watch the game live instead of DVRing it.
And who knows, if the Bears do something stupid, Talib Akib might actually slip out a curse word. That's a price of admission right there. He might slip out a swear word. That's actually probably one of the things that will probably be a good thing for this game. So so Sid got his early Christmas present.
My early birthday present.
Birthday present, I should say. Birthday in a few weeks. But yeah, that should be. This might actually be the thing that make the game tolerable. So.
Yeah. All right, and that's our, like I said, we're all going with the Bears, so that's our week 4 NFL picks. So check back in with us next week to see what games we got right, what games we got wrong.
There'll probably be a lot.
Yeah. We got about a minute and a half left in the show here on this hashtag Football Friday on Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago. Sid Lakina here with you. The acts of the halftime have been announced. They were announced a couple of days ago by the NFL and Rock Nation. You're going to have Dr. Dre. No, not from Dr. Dre, Ed Lover, New York. Dr. Dre is Snoop Dogg, Eminem, Mary J. Blige, and I'm Kendrick Lamar. Am I missing anybody else? If I am, let me know. But
you got them all. Yeah, Mary J. Blige, Eminem.
Those performers will perform during this year's Super Bowl 56 halftime show from SoFi Stadium, Los Angeles. During this year's Super Bowl. Lakina, I know we were all in our age group. We were late grammar school, definitely high school into early college years. Not to our date ourselves, but we remember most of these artists from the 90s and early 2000s. I know they're not going to curse. Thank goodness it's a family show.
Yes.
But I wonder what they're going to do. I know they're going to perform melodies of their songs. How many and how, those halftime shows are usually 20 minutes long.
Yeah.
So let's see if Snoop Dogg going to do anything stupid. Hopefully he doesn't do anything illegal, smoking on the stage, but a chancel. But I really, call me crazy, Lakina. Hopefully it doesn't bomb. But I'm really actually, for the first time since probably the Destiny's Child halftime performance, which I won some money on that bet, by the way, by picking the song that they were going to sing, which was Beyonce, Jay-Z's Crazy in Love. That was doing the Baltimore San Francisco Super Bowl, which the lights went out in the second half. But outside of that halftime performance, of course, we all know what happened to Janet Jackson the decade before that. I'm actually looking forward to this halftime show. I really am.
Yeah, I was really surprised when this announcement came out yesterday that they were actually going to go hip hop, in Los Angeles. But look, I mean, Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg, they were born and raised in the LA area. And if he heard, Dr. Dre's comments yesterday that he said, look, this is sort of a dream come true for him. So, being able to do this, good thing, thanks to Pepsi and NFL for doing this. And, I think it's going to be a good show. Look, 25 minutes, there's going to be, I'm sure it's going to be some pyrotechnic stuff. There's really not really a hip hop for hip hop, but I'm sure it's going to be even more surprises. There's going to be some more artists that they haven't named yet, but those five are going to be some kind of, the main attraction. So, and Kendrick's got an album coming out. So that should, that's all culminating in that too. So yeah, I think this will be a very, it's going to be a lot of fun. And look, you got their 43 Grammys, 19 #1 Billboard albums between those five legendary artists. So I think the NFL has got a good one here. I know some of the halftime shows last couple of years been kind of, meh, and they're kind of blah, and they play this safe, but I think you're in Los Angeles, you're playing a SoFi Stadium, that place is gonna be rocking. You better do it up with the halftime show, and they did. So hopefully it'll be a great show.
And call me crazy too. I know some of our younger listeners will know this name better than we do, but I'm sure they'll do a tribute to Nipsey Hussle.
Oh yeah,
who died a couple years ago.
Yeah,
they better do that.
Yeah, I think
they're in their backyard.
I think it will. Yeah, I think they'll do that. I think they'll. Yeah, I think they'll do that. I think they will. Maybe some of his sonars he worked with. I think they'll probably make appearances too. So yeah, so I think there's gonna be a lot of surprises here. And like everybody, of course, those folks. Oh, how they do? But look, I mean, whoever the genre the music is, and some people are gonna get pissed, about why they go with this person. Look, it's just gonna be what happened. But just enjoy the show. Look, you don't have to watch it, so just go watch the Puppy Bowl for like 25 minutes or something. Whatever. But real quick, so what are you looking forward to this weekend, Sid?
I'm actually going to the Sox game tomorrow. I know it's supposed to be showers in the forecast, but it looks like they're going to get the game in. So I paid a lot of money for the ticket, $50 for those you want to know. I mean, no, I'm not selling it, so let it go. But I'm looking forward to the Sox. Hopefully they stay healthy and sweep these bad Detroit Tigers and finish out the season with the 94 victories. By the time we do our shows next week, it'll be playoff time.
Yeah, absolutely. The playoffs should be fun too. We'll get to that when we talk about it on Monday. Also, I'm looking forward to week 4 of the NFL. Also, to the college football stuff. Of course, who's going to win those wild card races about the NL and the AL, and also too, we'll see if either the Dodgers or the Giants, slip up and the Dodgers can sneak in there and win the NL West. A lot can still happen, so that should be a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to it.
All right, close us out.
All right. Also, really right quick, the cure cancer for our buddy KXRB's Christine Manika. Cure cancer, call 1-800-601-5085 or text the word Castle to 5155. So look, donate what you can, and help out a great cause. Now, with that said, on that note, you can follow me at Keena McGee at Keena McGee on the Twitter. I forgot my Twitter handle for a second. At Keena_McGee on the Instagram.
You can follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKIDA0. SIDKIDA0. As Lakina said, help out our good friend Christine Manika with the charity event she's doing with her radio station. Help out if and when you can. And make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app where you get your buy your apps or download your apps. Make sure the app says Sports Zone Chicago. You can catch this show, Second City Sports, live in a living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Second City Sports live from noon to 2 p.m. Chicago time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Now, Sports Zone Chicago can be followed on all social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Sports Zone Chicago. Once again, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, Sports Zone Chicago. Go find them, go follow them, please, and subscribe to them here on YouTube.
And
Also,
tell your friends.
Yes. Also, you want to catch the audio versions of this podcast. I know I've been sending out the links these last few weekends, including the Sunday mornings before the NFL games. A lot of you guys been clicking on the audio links. We appreciate that. Please, as Lakina says, subscribe and tell your friends. We're available on all podcast platforms, and that's on War on Anchor. Make sure you type in that search engine box on all those podcast platforms, WARR on Anchor. And you can follow War Media at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, that War Media, that's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
All right.
All right, first Sid, I'm Lakina. It's going to get a little cooler out there, folks. We're in October now, so it's going to be a little more seasonal. So get those jackets out and be good to each other. If you're not going to get vaccinated, wear your mask when you're indoors, folks. We're under a mask mandate here in Illinois still. But enjoy the games, and just be safe out there. For Sid, I'm Lakina. This is Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you Monday. We're going to talk some White Sox and playoffs.
Go White Sox. Holla!